Hey, this is Milt Lowder with this week's edition of the Growth Spurt, and I want you to chew on something for a minute. Great humans make poor gods. Great leaders make poor gods. Great people make poor gods. Great coaches make poor gods. Great parents make poor gods. Great partners make poor gods. What does that really mean? Well, that was the title of a devotion my wife sent me several years ago. And what that constant reminder is in my life is, how do I accept the things I cannot control? How do I let go of those things and focus on what I can, which is one of the fundamental principles we teach at AMPLOS. One of the fundamental principles you hear in the field of performance psychology, to focus on the controllables. Well, what that really means to me is, how do we give ourselves permission to be human? And what does that look like in your life? And maybe you're like me, that maybe sometimes it's easier to give other people permission to be human than to give yourself permission to be human. That maybe you think there's something different about you, something unique about you, something that makes you special, that the principles of being human do not apply to you. And being human means we get to have all the human experiences, the highs and the lows. We get to experience the negative reactions. Because when something happens in our life, there's a difference between a reaction and a response. Giving yourself permission to be human means you give yourself permission to experience the negative thoughts, the negative emotions, the anxiety, the fear, the frustration, the disappointment, the discouragement. Because what I have learned in my life is, you have to give yourself permission. You've got to have the courage to experience the pain that comes with being human. But here's the beautiful part. Being human means we get to choose a different response. We get to choose how we're going to respond to the adversity. And the greatest philosophical conundrum I think we experience as being human is, how do we accept the limits of being human without accepting the limits that being human imposes upon us? Let me say that again. The challenge we face when we give ourselves permission to be human, we want to make sure that we can accept the limits of being human. We accept our limitations, the limits that bind us, that are outside of our control. We accept that. But being human means we do not accept the limitations that being human imposes upon us. And so where do you find yourself really struggling with being human? Where do you find yourself struggling to find meaning in your suffering, to find meaning in your work, to find purpose in your pain? Like, that's part of the human experience. And the beautiful part of, when you give yourself permission to be human, it means you give other people permission to be human as well. Life was not meant to be a solo journey. It allows you to connect with others in a meaningful way, in a deepful way, in a very intentional, purposeful way. It actually produces oxytocin, which helps bind us together. So I hope this encourages you. And as you give yourself permission to be human, start thinking through the things in your life. What are the things I can control? What are the things I cannot control? And how do I start pushing those limits? How do I start responding in a different way? Because part of your growth in being human, I had the pleasure of hearing George Strait and Cody Johnson in Clemson, Death Valley a few weeks ago. And there's a song that Cody Johnson's like, "I'm still learning to be human." I think we all are. As you're learning to be human, start thinking of, how do you start letting go of the things you cannot control? And how do you start focusing more on the things you can? Until next time, continue to be better and pursue better.